Everyone thinks dopamine is your brain's pleasure chemical, the thing that makes Netflix binges and chocolate cake feel like the highlight of your week. But here's the twist. Dopamine does not actually care about pleasure. It is obsessed with prediction. Your brain is less interested in how good something feels, and more in whether it can accurately guess what comes next. That is why a slot machine can ruin someone's life. Not because the prize is so satisfying, but because the unpredictability keeps the dopamine system on high alert. Now here is the wild part. You can literally rewire this system so that instead of avoiding hard work, your brain starts craving it like its favorite addiction. Pop culture turned dopamine into a cheap buzzword, the so-called happiness molecule. It gets blamed for social media addictions and praised for the little high you get after exercise. As if it were just a party drug, your brain keeps tucked away. But that is not the truth. Dopamine is about anticipation and motivation, not satisfaction. Think of it this way. Dopamine is less like chocolate cake and more like your personal hype man, the one constantly shouting, "Do it again, keep going, you are on to something." It is not about the moment you taste victory. It is about the rush you feel before victory arrives. Here is the problem. Your brain has been hijacked. Phones, junk food, and video games all hand out instant dopamine hits like free samples at a grocery store. No effort, no patience, no risk. Meanwhile, hard work operates on delayed rewards. Study for hours, maybe you get an A weeks later. Exercise for months, maybe you see results eventually. To your dopamine system, that delay feels like torture. So of course the brain resists. It is like trying to run modern life on Windows 95. Slow, clunky, and painfully outdated compared to the shiny instant gratifications waiting on your phone. Think about the last time you sat down to study, hit the gym, or tried building something meaningful. Suddenly, scrolling for 10 minutes felt way more attractive. That is the trap. Your brain has been trained to chase shortcuts instead of investing in effort. Here is where the science gets interesting. Researchers at Stanford discovered something called reward prediction error. In plain English, this means your brain does not release dopamine when you achieve something. It releases dopamine when the outcome is better than expected. That is why surprises feel so thrilling. Meanwhile, neuroscientists studying dopamine baselines have shown that your brain is not stuck with a fixed reward system. You can actually shift it. By deliberately focusing on the process instead of the prize, your brain learns to attach dopamine spikes to the act of effort itself. Think of it like hacking the code. At first, exercise feels like torture, but if you frame the workout as the reward, not just the six-pack months later, the brain starts to crave that state. The same happens with studying, writing, or building anything long-term. Here is the plot twist. Dopamine can be trained to reward effort itself. That means you can turn deep focus, discipline, and sweat into something your brain actually wants, the same way it craves sugar or scrolling. Of course, there is a darker angle. Tech companies have already figured this out, and they are using it against you. Social media platforms are engineered around dopamine loops. The infinite scroll, the unpredictable likes, the random viral video. It is all designed to exploit your brain's reward prediction error system. Your brain is basically a lab rat, except the maze is TikTok, and the cheese is an endless loop of dopamine hits. This raises a disturbing question. Who is in charge here? Are you controlling your dopamine system, or is it controlling you? Because right now, algorithms worth billions are fighting for custody of your brain chemistry. And the only way to win back control is to understand how to rewire it for yourself, to stop being the rat and start being the scientist running the experiment. So how do you actually pull this off? Think of it like installing a mental update patch. The first step is to redefine your wins. Instead of only celebrating the trophy, start celebrating the sweat. Every time you push through effort, count that as the victory. Your brain will eventually learn that effort itself is rewarding. Next, a dopamine detox. This does not mean living in a cave without Wi-Fi, but it does mean reducing the quick hits. Less doom scrolling, less sugar, fewer cheap thrills. Why? Because those instant rewards are flooding your brain and drowning out the slower, deeper signals that come from hard work. Then comes the trick. Stack effort with reward. Pair the grind with something enjoyable. Blast your favorite playlist at the gym, light a candle when studying, or sip your favorite coffee while writing. You are basically baiting your brain into associating work with pleasure. Finally, practice delaying gratification. This is where reward prediction error works in your favor. By stretching the gap between effort and payoff, you create the tension your brain actually loves. Yes, this means tricking your brain like it is a golden retriever. But here is the good news. It works. Here is the big reveal. Once your brain starts firing dopamine during the process, not just at the finish line, hard work itself becomes addictive. Suddenly, the grind feels less like punishment and more like play. You stop needing external carrots and sticks because your brain is already handing you treats for showing up. It is like turning your own mind into a slot machine, except this one only pays out when you put in effort. And that makes you more powerful than any app, any algorithm, or any quick fix. Because while everyone else is being trained to chase distractions, you have hacked the code. Now you hold the insider truth. You can manipulate your own neurochemistry better than billion-dollar tech companies do. And when you make your dopamine crave discipline, there is almost nothing you cannot achieve.